Can everyone hear me okay? I see someone typing. Thanks for the feedback. Perfect. Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. And my name is Jennifer from IIX's Knowledge Management team and your MC for today. Thank you for joining our session on Build Back Better for Indonesia, How to Make Finance Work for the 99%. Before we get started, let me remind you of a few technical tips on how to use the webinar platform. You will be kept on mute throughout the webinar. And if you're joining through your computer or the Click Meeting app, we invite you to share your questions by first going to your chat box on the bottom right of your screen and clicking on the question mark icon found in the box where you can enter your text. If you want to just put in a message or a comment, you can go to the chat box and click on the message icon, the message bubble right next to the question mark. So our day is as follows. We're pleased to welcome the following speakers. IIX's CEO and founder, Professor Durreen Shahnaz, Mr. Yahya Rachmana Hidayat, who is Director for Energy Resources, Mineral and Mining at Bappenas and Government Co-Chair of P4G National Platform. Mrs. Felicia Barus, who is Assistant Director of the Academy of Leadership and General Management with Bank Indonesia Institute. And unfortunately, we had one more panelist, but we did receive word last minute from Ms. Rulina of Bank Indonesia, who was unable to make it last minute. So her department's busy with the possibility of her colleague being the candidate for the next bank governor. So she sends her regrets. But we'll move on, and our program will kick off with a brief overview and background to today's discussion. Next, we'll move into the panel discussion, which with each panelist first introducing themselves and the work that they do. And then we'll move into a discussion moderated by Mr. Robert Kraybill, IIX's Chief Investment Officer. So we hope there's time for questions from the audience. So we have many participants from all around the world. So we do hope that you'll stay around and share your questions in the chat box throughout the program. So today's discussion is a timely one, not only because of the unprecedented human and economic crisis that faces Indonesia and the region in the wake of the pandemic, but also because our time really is up for making finance inclusive and work for the 99%. So now, with donor countries turning inward, investor dollars drying up, and multilateral dollars rushing to distribute funds to their members, we have to have the courage to really ask, was innovative finance working for the 99%? And even before COVID, Indonesia was already becoming a hotspot for innovative finance and green finance. However, there are growing concerns around impact washing and pandemic washing, and it really begs the question of whether old tools are being relabeled as innovative finance. So here are some challenges that we see on the ground. In some cases, we see multilateral projects called innovative finance that are actually a mix of traditional finance and development tools. So this could be using CSRs, philanthropy dollars, or convenings and research papers. All of these are quite ill-prepared to deal with our current post-COVID situation. PPP projects like crowdfunding platforms or financing hubs are being launched, but are deals closing, and why is it so difficult to track the impact being created on the ground? And finally, there are a host of funds launched with a gender lens, yet these tend to be slow and non-transparent investments into SMEs with varying degrees of gender and impact lens. So we see investees ranging from co-working spaces to fashion retailers. So really, as the host of today's webinar, IIX is really pleased to dive deeper in with our guests, and I won't spend too much time, but I do want to talk about, for IIX, this is a very, very central topic for us, having been in Indonesia for a decade, unlocking private sector capital for sustainable development. And to date, our work has unlocked up to close to 200 million in private sector capital and positively impacted 80 million lives, the majority of which are underserved women. And so for today's webinar, it is in collaboration with Partnering for Green Growth, P4G, And IIX is a winner of the P4G Partnership Award for our innovative financial product, the Women's Livelihood Bond Series, which was not only Indonesia's first time participating in a gender lens social bond, connecting the country and its poorest citizens directly to capital markets, it continues to be the world's first and only impact and gender lens instrument to be listed on a stock exchange, reporting social and financial returns. And we've won this award along with many other awards, as you can see here, really because of the commitment to creating that long-term deep impact on the ground, and really at a level of transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness that we really hope that we will have more people step up and be a part of that journey with us. We have several branches of Bappenas joining us today, so we were asked to speak just a little bit more about how the WLB is addressing so many different aspects of sustainable development in Indonesia. So this slide is really to highlight some of those ways in which our second bond is already making impact in Indonesia. And this impact includes, one, truly adding additionality by bringing in actors in a way that is catalytic. So USAID, DFAT, Global Affairs Canada, for example, are complementing private sector actors like Standard Chartered, Sherman Sterling, Latham and Watkins, and others. Two, the bond is giving significant leverage to foundations and donors, generating far greater social value on the ground than traditional development approaches. And three, it really spans multiple SDGs, including zero hunger, gender equality, climate action. And we're very excited to be working on our third bond, where we're pulling together a portfolio of women-focused enterprises that are COVID responsive, resilient, and resistant. So against this backdrop of challenges and glimmers, and I'll wrap up here, of making sure that finance is inclusive, especially in this era of COVID, when you have millions of people around the world and in Indonesia who are falling into poverty because of the pandemic. It's wonderful to see Indonesia's top economic and development institutions here today to discuss this further with us. So really, without further ado, I'm pleased to welcome each panelist to start off by briefly introducing themselves and the work and their organization before I hand it off to our moderator. So with that, I would like to invite our speakers to turn your mic on, so your microphone on. And perhaps we can start with our IIX's CEO and founder, Professor Durreen Shahnaz.
Thank you, Jennifer, and a big welcome to everyone to the webinar. Really appreciate you all joining today. And a big thank you to Mr. Yahya and Ms. Felicia for joining this very important discussion and on really how to use innovative finance to make it work for the 99%. And we are thrilled that IIX has been able to play an incredible role for the last decade in Indonesia, and how we are actually doing the work in terms of taking it to the next level. So looking forward to the discussion.
Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Yahya Rachmana Hidayat from Bappenas to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu Jennifer. Thank you so much, Professor Durreen Shahnaz. Very welcome. First of all, allow me to express our gratitude to be a part of this webinar in this uncertain situation due to an outbreak that we fight for together recently, and hopefully we could overcome this outbreak immediately. We would like to appreciate especially to the Impact Investment Exchange, IIX, one of the P4G partnership in 2020 for organizing this forum, and to everyone who still commit to Indy4, the achievement of green and inclusive growth, as well as the global goal 2030. Introduce myself. I am Yahya Rachmana Hidayat, Director for Energy Resources, Mineral and Mining at the Ministry of National Development Planning, or Bappenas, of the Republic of Indonesia. In general, we are responsible for developing national development policies and plans for short, medium, and long term. Actually, the focal I'm a co-chair for Focal Point of the P4G, and then actually the co-chair is Pak Rizal Primana, but right now he is not very well. That's why I am represent him as a speaker in this event. Besides, I am assigned to be government co-chair Focal Point for Indonesia for P4G national platform. We are coordinating the line of government institution for supporting the P4G project that's strongly related to our national agenda. Thank you so much.
Next, we'd like to welcome Mrs. Felicia Barus, who is the Assistant Director of Academy of Leadership and General Management at Bank Indonesia Institute.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everybody. It's been a great honor to be here this morning. I would like to apologize for the technical issues here in our central bank. Seems there is some internet connections issues, so that we have to move to another room for secure the internet connection. Well, what I'm doing daily, my daily responsibility is not directly related to what the impact investment are, but we are trying to increase the level of awareness of so many leaders and also young generation about the impact investment. It's nice to be here. I hope I can contribute to this webinar. Thank you.
Everyone, and big welcome to all our speakers. And so now we will hand it off. So we're very excited to have our CIO, Robert Kraybill, with us today, who in his role at IIX, Rob leads all of our portfolio management activities with a goal to increase global capital towards high-impact SMEs who are innovating solutions to social and environmental problems. He is leading the development of innovative and gender-lens financial instruments, such as our Women's Livelihood Bond Series and the Women's Catalyst Fund. And in addition, Rob oversees the IIX Growth Fund, managing a portfolio of enterprises in South and Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. So with that, I will pass it over to Rob.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. I would like to address my first question to Mr. Yahya Hidayat. Mr. Hidayat, even before the COVID crisis, Indonesia had been taking steps towards using innovative finance for sustainable development, including through Bappenas' work with the SDG Financing Hub that you're involved with. Meanwhile, in 2019, Indonesia made history by being part of IIX's Women's Livelihood Bond Series, the country's first gender lens social bond, which is impacting currently the livelihoods of approximately 160,000 underserved women in Indonesia. A key element of the partnership between IIX and P4G is additionality, which is to say using innovative finance to unlock new sources of private sector capital to support sustainable development initiatives. Mr. Hidayat, as the co-chair of the P4G National Platform for Indonesia, can you share with us where you see opportunities for P4G working in partnership with IIX on the Women's Livelihood Bond to fill gaps in existing multilateral initiatives, especially in view of the central role that women play in green growth and inclusive recovery?
Thank you so much, Pak Robert. Your question is very comprehensive and clear. So you know that earlier this year, Indonesia has launched what we call the Medium-Term National Development Plan 2020-2024 as a representative of the vision, mission, and platform of the elected president 2019. So this medium term start to begin the economic transformation. Our goal is to achieve quality development by increasing the welfare and the quality of human resources reducing poverty and employment rate, reducing inequality and disparity, and the environmental sustainability. Furthermore, to show our great concern on environmental sustainability, for the first time, the greenhouse gases emission reduction becomes one of the macroeconomic indicators, along with the other economic growth, such as poverty reduction, human development index, Gini ratio, and open unemployment rate. Sustainable development goals are strongly integrated into the national and subnational development agenda. Unfortunately, the Asia Pacific SDGs Progress Report released by UNESCAPE in 2019 highlighted that the Asia Pacific region will likely miss all goals by 2030 at the current pace. The effort need to be accelerated. Roughly, Indonesia needs for almost 430 billion US dollar to support in achieving the SDGs goal. We are aware of the importance of financial involvement from other actors to complement the limited capacity of government. Therefore, non-government actors have an imperative role and should be mobilized. As Pak Robert said before that, Indonesia had already been taking steps toward using innovative finance for sustainable development. However, we still need to do incredible action to boost up this program. Indonesia has officially joined the P4G in September 2019. We would like this cooperation to support the SDGs and National Development Goal achievement, support collaboration with non-government stakeholders, and provide room to initiate creative financing. We institute the Indonesia V4G national platform that involving private and community parties. Therefore, we can establish the desired climate for all parties. We appreciate the involvement of IIX in P4G partnership. We are aligned to the goal of IIX Women Livelihood Bond as well to further progress on sustainable development and accelerate innovative public-private partnership in Indonesia. Women have a critical role in the economic development of Indonesia. The Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises registered that 14 million SMEs in Indonesia managed by women, which contribute about 9.17% of GDP and 5% of export. This is important to be noted that the finance scheme to assist women is not only about financial itself, but also empower around 50% of the population and amplifies the family welfare. Collaboration across sectors is the only headway to achieve our goal and ensure that our system and communities endure and improve. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, however, we consider some impact on the achievement of sustainable development agenda in Indonesia, such as the decline of projected economic growth, the increase of poverty, the increase of the open unemployment rate. These conditions shake things up. Women are one of the population group who are affected abruptly by the pandemic. Therefore, hopefully, IIX Women Livelihood Bond as a new way to finance green growth could contribute as well as to recovery of the pandemic. The Women Livelihood Bond is assisting Indonesia to achieve of its of its SDGs target, including SDG number 2, no hunger, SDG number 7, clean and affordable energy, in addition to 10 other SDGs with a primary focus on SDGs number 5, gender equality, and SDG number 7, partnership for the goals. We also would like to emphasize that it is important for financing to be accessible to the targeted group. Our upcoming collaboration together with the P4G and partnership, we could take the role for contribution in the term of increasing creative financing, paving the way of the private sector to support the national and global goal, leveraging the cooperation with other existing schemes, leading the community to take action for attaining quality growth, and implementing real collaboration among stakeholders. That's from our contribution. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Yahya, and thank you for your leadership of the P4G initiative in Indonesia. We really value the partnership there. My next question is to Mrs. Felicia Barros of Bank Indonesia Institute. Mrs. Barros, last year, IIX and Bank Indonesia Institute partnered to bring impact investing and innovative finance into the curriculum of Indonesia's future economic leaders through BII's annual international seminar. We saw quite a lot of interest from regional leaders in Aceh, Lampung, Daeri, who attended the session and saw possibilities for the use of innovative finance to drive inclusive growth. And now, looking ahead, BII and IIX are partnering again to dedicate 2020 seminar completely to impact investing, with regional and local governments, members of parliament, regional central bankers, and donor countries coming together. Mrs. Barrios, what will be some of the critical discussion points to address, and what is needed to catalyze more innovative financial partnerships like the Women's Livelihood Bond to catalyze sustainable development in Indonesia?
Well, yes, we find it very interesting to working together with IIX last year, and we hope that this year we can also join the International Leadership Seminar again. This year we'll bring out the topic about how impact leadership can create an enabling environment to leading the sustainable and inclusive growth in Indonesia. So we know that the potential for developing impact investment in Indonesia is quite large in the direction of national development in harmony with the sustainable development goals. Indonesia has huge investment potential for social enterprise. Well, the data from Mekar Investama Sampurna, Indonesia's first investing fund, shows that there are specific investment potential in several areas or industries, such as in the energy sector, also in the age and fisheries. Like for example, the energy sectors, there is a potential of 4.4 billion impact investment, and in the agriculture and fisheries, we find that there is a potential of 3.15 billion for such an investment. So with a large potential of Indonesia to make impact investment a new source of funding, it is necessary to identify an impact investment financing scheme and the impact investment actors as well. So this is expected to be a general reference on the opportunities and challenges of impact investment in Indonesia, so that specific recommendation can be given to related parties. So we also find out that the need for collaboration from various sectors to support the programs that are oriented towards continuing to get funding that is right on target from investors and in accordance with the desired value is also important right now. Partnerships from the public and private sectors need to be strengthened in the form of policy and infrastructure support that encourages more accessible and sustainable supply of capital.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Barros, and thank you for highlighting the role of investment in clean energy, in fisheries, and in sustainable agriculture. We see those as all very important sectors regionally and particularly in Indonesia for impact investors to focus on. So thank you very much. My next question goes to Professor Shahnaz of IIX. Professor Shahnaz, IIX has been a pioneer in sustainable investing in the region and a part of Indonesia's journey towards sustainable development over the last decade. After the past 11 years of IIX's work unlocking over $200 million of private sector capital, impacting 80 million underserved individuals, and now with IIX's Women's Livelihood Bond series enabling Indonesian enterprises to connect directly to global capital markets and to making history as the country's first gender-lens social bond that drives inclusive green growth. Why is the WLB so critical during this time of COVID? And why has it been more effective than other better funded initiatives in unlocking capital? Durreen, I think you may be on mute.
Apologies. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Robert, for the question. And really, it's heartening to hear from my fellow panelists, about the work that the Indonesian government is doing in acknowledging, women as a part of the solution in the economic growth. And I think it's interesting because if you look at it post-COVID, Indonesia was the third fastest growing economy in the world. I mean, that's astounding. And Indonesia has a very large young population. It has incredible use of social media, but also it has incredible inequality that has come with the growth. So it was almost 90% of the people in Indonesia who live below poverty line. And this also, of course, not just Indonesia. We see this in other Southeast Asian countries like the Philippines. Now, without an intervention model, post-COVID, we really will see incredible impact of it with almost 3.6 million people who will be really plunged even further into the poverty line. And so I think it's really important for us to take a holistic approach in terms of seeing what was happening and how do we actually move forward in using finance, as a tool to really help the underserved and really connecting the last mile. So for IIX, it's been an interesting journey for us in Indonesia, where we are very committed to the country. We have an office there. And we do see that through our work, and we do many different things, in our Impact Partners platform, which is an investment capital raising platform, with the partnership on USAID, the Swedish government, Australian DFAT, we have been able to unlock capital, really that's almost 25 times what the initial technical assistance that we received from the government was. So we have raised almost $10 million on 8 deals. And these are small SMEs, but it does have an incredible impact. And in the sustainable agriculture, in healthcare, in waste management. So we're talking about companies like Krakatoa, Bali Cashew, East Valley Cashew, Green Enterprise. So really, we're across the range and impacting over 2.4 million underserved communities. And we were really thrilled that we could actually do this, and we're continuing to do this, and even with our own capital through our fund. So we have been able to not only bring to fruition and bring to the main discussion among investors, the importance of the underserved communities and being able to connect that. But we have been also been able to take that to the next level with sophisticated instruments like the Women's Livelihood Bond, which a number of the panelists have already brought into light. Now, again, going back to COVID, because this is something here and we have to address this. So we created a COVID tool to understand how the COVID is impacting, the SMEs that we're working with. And as Mr. Yahya said, almost 14 million SMEs are owned by women. I mean, women are big power, with the SMEs, but of course it affects everyone, the COVID that we're experiencing. And we saw that 60% of the organization, who responded, they said their revenues are going to be heavily impacted by COVID. And so this was actually quite, for us, it was quite disheartening, because the SMEs, we have thousands of them on our database, and these are SMEs who are actually working with the communities and the underserved, and they're actually incredibly inclusive. So if you're talking about this, the 60%, these inclusive SMEs, they're saying that they cannot actually, it's going to be really hard for them to move forward. Similarly, we're also seeing what was incredible, that these SMEs, they're still committed to working with the underserved women, and they said they're not deviating from that. They will do whatever it takes to be able to have the women and the minorities and underserved communities still a part of their equation as they're doing the work. So this is really important, that we don't forget that if Indonesia, along with other countries, but if we are going to play a role in lifting this country in post-COVID, we have to keep in mind that we have to help them now. We have to do something about bringing capital in to lift these organizations. So I think that's where, frankly, also, of course, our platform, which is continuing to impact partners, raise capital for these SMEs, but also our next bond, even in this crisis, we are actually moving forward with Women's Livelihood Bond 3. And we are hopeful that we will have Indonesian entities, of course, as a part of that. And again, this is our way of saying, we need to keep it going. We need to keep it moving. We need to actually make sure that the country and these organizations are able to operate and grow the economy and have the underserved as a part of the equation. So we were very pleased when we were the winner of the P4G, and we were very, very pleased that they're part of the whole partnership, along with the Australian government, DFAT, USAID, the DBS Bank, ANZ, Australian Bank, Sherman and Sterling, who is a global law firm, Latham and Watkins, Hogan Lovel, Global Affairs Canada, and Standard Charter. So it really is a village that's coming together to help Indonesia and help the underserved be a part of the financial system. So, so in terms of being innovative, you have to truly be innovative in terms of now helping these organizations, because we can no longer just keep on doing what we're doing. And the true additionality, comes from creating something that you have not done before. So I think we're thrilled that we're able to bring that innovation and additionality through a sophisticated structure as WLB, to the market. And I hope that all of you will be a part of it. And we're thrilled that the government now is a part of this whole equation as well. Prof, on to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor Shahnaz, and thank you to all the speakers for those insightful answers, and also for keeping to time. We're actually somewhat ahead of time, which means we will have time for questions from the audience. I see some have been typed into Q&A mode. If there are others who have questions, please do type those into either the public chat or, better yet, the Q&A mode. Let me take one of the questions from the that I've seen asked here. I'll direct it to you, Mr. Hidayat. a questioner is asking about, and I think this is in the context of clean energy projects, what about the process of getting PPAs from PLN? It seems that many project plans are waiting in the list for those PPAs, which makes it harder. Is that something you can address that in your role in the energy department in Bappenas?
Okay, thank you, Pak Robert. I would like to answer the question of Pak Iwan Budiarta concerning about the process to get PPA from the PLN. Yeah, you know that especially in our national development plan, especially medium development national plan, so we would like to apply what we call that low carbon development initiative. So that's why we would like to accelerate the contribution of the renewable energy or clean energy in our energy mix, national energy mix. That's why PLN is the important key role. Yeah, because you know that especially the capacity of power plant coming from the renewable energy is still very small. So that's why the PLN, that's why the government must intervene. You know, the policies of the all everything about the clean or renewable energy. So that's why you know that PPA is coming from the brown energy. It's difficult right now, and then still hold, you know, because especially in the area of Java, Bali, you know that we are having oversupply from the coal power plant. So that's why we prioritizing for the renewable energy for this, but still waiting list for the agreement to the PLN, because you know that the current government would like to produce, would like to making the comfortable pricing for the power plant coming from the renewable energy. Right now, the presidential decree still in the secretariat cabinet for proceed. Because the government would like to introduce the new scheme of the pricing of the renewable energy project. Yeah, that's my answer. We would like that the new scheme will be, you know, that will be make investor interesting to invest in the clean energy, especially renewable power plant, yeah, geothermal, hydropower, solar system, and the other biomass and other renewable energy power plant. So you know that the government right now still coordinating not only with the PLN but also with the Pertamina. Not only you know that because we would like to reducing the utilization of power plant coming from the solar or diesel will be replaced by gas or natural gas, or replaced by other clean energy. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Robert.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yahya. Let me see. There's another question that we're getting a number of questions. Let me ask one here. I think it's directed to Professor Shahnaz, but I think it's also one that maybe any of the panelists could answer. It is the COVID tool, which you spoke about, Professor Shahnaz, is very useful in revealing some interesting but sobering information. With so many SMEs struggling during COVID, how can we bring the necessary scale of investment to deal with this massive need?
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Tricia, for asking the question. And it's a very important one. So we do think there's a two-step process here. You know, especially with the smaller SMEs, they do immediately need some relief on working capital. So I think, you know, this is where a lot of the governments, the OECD countries, can play a big role in terms of actually coming in and providing that relief of the working capital initially. And then once actually they can actually go through this period of next few months, they actually can, you know, go to the next stage of growth. And I think this is also, I would say the growth comes from two angles. One, of course, is additional investment capital. And I do think, at least from the organizations that we're dealing with, a lot of them are ready. I mean, they have taken good measures in terms of dealing with the new situation, and they are ready for capital. And then the second thing also is how to effectively get these SMEs into the value chain of the bigger organizations. And it's been very interesting because I think we need to also push the envelope on that and hold the multinational corporations accountable that their CSR activities cannot just now remain as something where they just go and give a little money to paint a wall in an orphanage, or, you know, I'm being facetious, but I think, you know, it has to be something much more meaningful. And one of the meaningful things that they can do now in post-COVID is really see how to incorporate these SMEs into the supply chain. And this is something at IIX that we are actually now really focusing on as well. And we are in the process of getting a group of SMEs, a number of them from Indonesia, into a platform where they will have access to several million other organizations. It's a B2B platform. And we are trying to sort of see how we can actually make them grow by investments and also through access to market. So I think we need to be innovative in how we are doing this. And of course, this is also a great opportunity, and I will really sort of put a word out there for the investors, the fact that now actually is the time to invest. Because if you look at it, even during this COVID time, all the organizations that we have worked with, and again, many of them in Indonesia, they're actually doing okay, despite what the numbers are saying. So they are suffering, they're still being inclusive, and they're being responsible about how they're growing. So I think we need to reward that. And we need to be able to sort of say, we are here for you, and we'll do all we can to make sure that Indonesia continues to grow as it was growing post-COVID. So there's a lot to do, but we need to kind of do it in a more creative way, and not the usual, we just put the funding in things that we were already doing, which we are seeing a lot of it. So perhaps you know, we need to be a little more comfortable about embracing the risk of innovation.
Okay.
I think maybe someone else also wants to address this, Robert.
Yeah. If anyone else wants to address either Yahya or Ibu Felicia, or else I have one or two other questions. So let me move on. Please.
There's do another Indonesian ministry have involved in this program? Yes, yeah, because you know that that's our role in Bappenas in order to coordinating cross-sectoral and then the cross institution, especially government institution, not only line ministries from the central government, but also with the local government. So in this program for women livelihood bond, that will be involving some line ministries like the Ministry of Women Empowerment, Ministry of Small Scale Enterprises, Ministry of Finance, of course, and then also Bank Indonesia, Central Government of Indonesia, and then also Ministry of Domestic Affair. Yeah, you know that the Ministry of Trade also will be involving. Yeah, so because and then BKPM, National Coordinating Investment Board. So because you know that not only bond but also how to make open the investment climate in Indonesia. Yeah, not only for everyone, but especially for the empowerment of the woman, something like that.
Good. Thank you, Yahya. There's another question here which I think I may be able to answer if I have that prerogative as the moderator, and that it comes from Akil Khan. He asks, is IIX involved in co-creation of the innovative projects that are viable for investment? And I guess I would say that we are not a project developer. We don't develop projects per se. However, we do coordinate a number of programs to assist innovative, high-impact entrepreneurs and high-impact enterprises to become investment ready and to to grow to a stage where they can access and become ready for investment. One of those programs is the Equity at Scale program, which we conduct with funding from the Department of DFAT in Australia. And I would invite any high-impact enterprises in Indonesia that are looking on how to become investment ready and how to access impact investment capital to sign up for that program. There's a host of resources there, both kind of self-taught as well as access to our professionals at IIX who can help with that.
Rob, if I may just add to that. So I think just a quick sort of an idea to attach to it is we do, while we are actually very open to working with partners in solving solutions, which brings in the underserved communities and the environment. So one such example is the work that we have embarked on now. As we're speaking, it's happening in with the Wildlife Conservation Society and then the Environmental Defense Fund. So these are two very large NGOs from the US. So we are working with them in Indonesia actually to work on sustainable fisheries and how to actually look at innovative finance to solve the whole equation of sustainable fisheries, making the value chain of sustainable fisheries be more accountable, and again, making that accountability happen through financial incentives. So, and also the fishermen themselves, so that they can be actually a part of the equation. Because again, fisheries is a big issue in Indonesia and globally, but Indonesia is a hotspot for that. And then in certain areas, certain islands of Indonesia. So we are doing that work, and we're really happy that we can actually use our knowledge of the fisheries sector, the work in Indonesia, as well as innovative finance, to be able to co-create a solution around this, and looking at a blue bond that's in works. On to you, Robert.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think we've covered a lot of the questions. I will ask whether just give an opportunity for Mrs. Barros, if there's anything you'd like to add. I thought in particular, I do know that BII programs cut across all the ministries at within Indonesia. I'm wondering if you're seeing interest from different areas within the departments that you work with in innovative finance.
Well, Robert, it's not under Bank Indonesia Institute actually. Well, they suppose Ibu Ita Rulina, who comes from the department that work across with all the ministries, but he cannot uh, come to this conference since there is another agenda. So from our side as the institute, we at least provide 3 actions to make impact investment more popular, at least in Indonesia. The first one is that we increase the level of awareness to impact investment by creating a learning module on impact investment in various level of learning department program. We construct sessions of this topic in our executive leadership program. And we also, I believe that we already invite you to speak in one of our executive leadership program last year, if I'm not mistaken. We also invite prominent speakers from reputable organizations to share thoughts and knowledge on the related issues. The second one is we try to create an enabling environment. We design a digital startup, so the investment ready startup as the demand side. Uh, we call it Youth Economic Leadership Program, and we also try to empowering the ecosystem by doing some collaboration work with IIX and also AVPN. Well, the institute is not directly connected to the bond issues or the regulation related to that issues. Unfortunately, we cannot have Ibu Ita, but as our part, we try to educate more leaders so that they can have more insights on these topics. And we would like we also think that integrated into the education of future economic leaders and how collaborative partnership can scale impact, especially to some of the poorest regions of Indonesia. It's important from our side. I think that's
Great. Thank you so much, Mrs. Barros. So first of all, let me thank all of the panelists. Great job with the presentation as well as with handling all the questions. And also let me say thank you to our audience for such engaging questions. We really appreciate it. I don't think we have time for any more questions. So let me hand it back now to our moderator, to Jennifer Tien.
Thank you, Rob, and again, fantastic questions. So, we really, started this webinar wanting to dive deeper and really ask some tough questions about how to really build an inclusive green future for Indonesia. So with that, I'd actually like to invite our CEO to just provide some final thoughts and remarks on the discussion and some key takeaways before we wrap up.
Thank you, Jennifer. So once again, a big thank you to Mr. Yahya, Hidayat, and Mrs. Felicia Barros for participating in this discussion. And a big thank you to the audience for being a part of it and really encouraging the work that's happening in Indonesia. And a big thank you to the IIX team, to Jennifer, to Robert, and the entire team who has worked very, very hard in pulling this webinar together. So as a final few words, I think, we have been doing this work in terms of, as I like to say, connecting the back street to Wall Street now for 11 years. And I think I almost say this COVID is a big testament to the fact that sustainability works, and the testament that, having inclusivity in your work works. So I think I would like to sort of use this opportunity, the last few seconds, to really make a plea to everyone in this sector to really try to be innovative, and let's have the courage to stop calling traditional finance and development work that's happening innovative. And I think that's happening a lot. So let's have the courage to say, let's do the work that's needed and not just take what we have and repackage it. Because the reality is, if we continue to be top-down, non-transparent, and be financing projects which are not really moving or working for the underserved, we cannot get through this COVID crisis. So again, a big push for the courage to innovate. So we'll have to sort of think beyond the traditional bonds and actually make financial instruments that are market-driven and work for the 99%, and not just for the multilaterals or the corporate banks. We have to have the courage to incorporate the voices of the poor communities and reporting, how they are actually their lives are getting better from this innovative finance, and really go to the last miles. And we have to have the courage to make sure that everyone is playing a role, a catalytic role. So in terms of the government, the multilaterals, the donors, so everyone has to be, of course, a part of this equation. And as far as IIX, we'll continue to be there in Indonesia. We continue to be committed to the country's growth through our programs, and you heard some of them. And I think it's an incredible honor to be able to do the work that we're doing. So thank you again for all the support and encouragement, and I hope this truly becomes a partnership for growth for all of us. So thank you, Jennifer.
Wonderful, and we are on time, which is fantastic for IIX. Again, we've had so many people join us from all around the world, and many who couldn't because they're just the wrong time zone. But we were very interested in the recording, so we will make that available afterwards. So big thanks to our speakers and to our listeners. IIX, we always strongly believe that you have a role to play, and so here we share with you just a few ways you can get involved. If you're a donor, come to the Women's Livelihood Bond so you can actually leverage your dollars to bring in new capital. If you're a social bond issuer, get Gender Lens certified with IIX, make sure it's truly inclusive. And if you're an enterprise or you work with enterprises supporting women's livelihood, be a part of our next bond. So with that, thank you everyone, and stay safe and stay resilient. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.